3, 2, 1, and liftoff of the United Launch Alliance Delta IV rocket carrying the Space 6 mission for the United States Air Force.
So that was a Delta IV launch I got to see a few months ago with a few friends. But what you guys are probably wondering is, what exactly did it launch, and what is a Delta IV? That's what we're talking about today. Let's get to it. Let's start out by talking about the mission itself. Space 6 is a pair of two military satellites launched atop a Delta IV Medium Plus 4-2 configuration. The launch occurred at 12:52 a.m. August 19th. What exactly do these two satellites do? We're not 100% sure. They are military satellites, so their purpose is classified, but what we do know is they operate for the United States Air Force and are designed to help with strategic awareness. The Delta IV is a member of the Delta family of rockets, which is a very old rocket family that extends all the way back to the beginning of the space age. The Delta IV has come a long way from the Thor Delta rocket that started the family back in the early days of the space age. Now, in order to understand the rocket as a whole, we have to understand the rocket in each of its parts. Now, all rockets can be broken down into a few general components. The first stage, the second, third, or fourth stage, depending on how many stages the rocket has, the fairings, and, if applicable to the rocket, the boosters. The Delta IV rocket is a two-stage vehicle that in its most basic form consists of a common booster core first stage, a Delta cryogenic second stage, and a pair of fairings that are designed to protect the payload during launch. Now, earlier I mentioned that the Space 6 mission launched on a Delta IV Medium Plus 4-2 configuration. What exactly does that mean? Now, the configurations of the Delta IV is where things start to get a little bit interesting. The most basic form of the Delta IV that I mentioned earlier is called the Delta IV Medium, and that consists of a single common booster core first stage, and a 4-meter Delta cryogenic second stage, and a pair of 4-meter fairings. The next step up the ladder is a Delta IV Medium Plus, which comes in a few different varieties. The Medium Plus configurations use the same common booster core first stage, either 2 or 4 GEM 60 solid rocket motors, and either a 4 or 5 meter upper stage, depending on the size of the fairings. The fairings are designed to match the size of that upper stage. Now, keeping track of how many boosters are on the rocket and what size upper stage the vehicle is carrying is where the number configuration comes into play. In the case of Space 6, the 4-2 designation. What this 4-2 configuration means is that it was carrying a 4-meter upper stage and 2 solid rocket motors. As I explained earlier, these designations mean a 4-meter upper stage with 2 solid rocket boosters, a 5-meter upper stage with 2 solid rocket boosters, and a 5-meter upper stage with 4 solid rocket boosters. Now, the last configuration of the Delta IV is where things get really exciting. And this configuration is known as the Delta IV Heavy. The Delta IV Heavy incorporates a 5-meter upper stage, a common booster core, and 2 more common booster cores to operate as boosters. At launch, all 3 common booster cores ignite simultaneously to lift the vehicle off the pad. However, shortly after liftoff, the engine of the center common booster core throttles down to conserve fuel. Later in flight, the port and starboard common booster cores shut down and separate, whereas the center common booster core continues on operating as the second stage. Shortly afterwards, the common booster core exhausts its fuel, shuts down, and separates from the 5-meter upper stage. Shortly after the ignition of the 5-meter upper stage, the payload fairings separate, and the 5-meter upper stage will continue the mission and deliver the payload to orbit. Since the retirement of the space shuttle, the Delta IV Heavy is the most powerful rocket currently in operation. The Delta IV is a very powerful and complex rocket. It is currently utilized to launch military satellites. Only the maiden flight of the Delta IV has launched a commercial payload. One of the most historic uses of the Delta IV has been the December 2014 launch of a Delta IV Heavy carrying the Orion spacecraft on the Exploration Flight Test 1 mission for NASA. The Delta IV is a truly massive vehicle, and it is one of my favorite rockets. Please comment below, let me know what other rockets you would like to know more about, and I'll try to do a video about them in the future. Until then, please like the video if you enjoyed watching it, please subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you next time. I should probably look that up before I start recording.